my grandfather, even only having an eighth grade education, my grandfather read the newspaper all the time. When I would go, he taught himself to read. It was very important that to him that his children would read and get an education. Yeah, so it's been stress. It's been stress for a very long time.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am so excited to have as my guest today, Ms. Devon Moody-Graham, or I should say Mrs. And she is a powerful businesswoman in the St. Louis metropolitan area, hails from East St. Louis, Illinois. And she's going to tell us all about her literacy journey. And I think it's interesting first, Devon, if you tell us, because it's amazing that of all the things that you're able to accomplish, your family composition. So, Devon, tell us how many children you have, you're married, and everything that you're able to do with your family.
Oh, wow. So I have a huge family. I have a blended family. I've given birth to 4 children, raised 6 children, ages now, oh my goodness, 2 to 25. This is definitely a time where we never have a dull moment. Married 10 years as of last week, and working in the space of entrepreneurship since I was about 10 years old, because my parents were entrepreneurs. And so I learned at a very early age that it was good to learn a skill that could pay you outside of, any regulated job that you would love. And I've had several positions that I love, from working in education as a college professor, anything working with youth and entrepreneurship I've loved, but I never tire of working in my own business and helping others succeed. CEO Mom Empire is actually my second consulting firm. I started it really because I come from a family of small business owners, and being Black business owners or minority business owners, we definitely have different challenges than other people who start businesses. Mm-hmm. It's really around access to capital, really knowing how to grow and scale businesses. And so that really was important to me. And even though my background is in marketing, I studied consumer behavior and really learning the market, understanding if we don't really learn how to create the value for customers so that we can scale and grow businesses, then we're not able to create generational wealth for our families. So I really have stayed in the vein of strategy, business development, and helping minority and women-owned businesses grow and scale, because it's personal to me, from family to friends to my own home. Because it's not just building for the sake of building, it's building for the sake of building community. Well, my first experiences around literacy, they come from my father. My dad, he reads the newspaper every day. Every single day, he reads the newspaper. And I remember seeing that. My dad, he used to have a bookman. He called him the bookman, that would come to his shoe shop, and he would always bring him books. And so a lot of them being Black authors, independent and national recognized authors. And so our home is, my parents' home, is filled with bookshelves of books about everything that you could possibly imagine. I remember one of the biggest books, there's a really big book that we have on Mesopotamia, because we love history. Books on we have autobiographies, and we have so many books. I get excited talking about books because the living room is filled. We joke, I was at my parents' house yesterday, and we joke about there not being enough room for the books. They literally have books stacked over, because there's not enough books, enough room for the books. My dad used to bring home cards that had history facts, world history, Black history facts. And so if I were to, he pull out a card and I knew the answer, I got some money. So I had some motivation too, and it's really special to me because he actually got his, because we had to talk about this probably about 7 to 10 years ago, because my grandfather, his father, he had an 8th grade education. Of course, he grew up at a different time, grew up in Mississippi, very rural Mississippi. And then was later moved to St. Louis, basically to keep him from being killed. He had gotten too big, and he wasn't going to allow white men to treat him as if he was nothing. And so he literally was shipped to St. Louis in the middle of the night as a teenage boy.
To save his life. From
to
being
save his
lynched.
life. Yeah, from being lynched. Marshall, Mississippi. That's where he grew up, in Marshall, Mississippi, very small town outside of like Memphis area.
Sure.
And so my grandfather, even only having an 8th grade education, my grandfather read the newspaper all the time. When I would go, he taught himself to read. It was very important that to him that his children would read and get an education. Yeah, so it's been stressed. It's been stressed for a very long time. With my own children, they each have their own separate libraries. We visit the library. When things happened with the pandemic, my children were about to lose it because we went to the library at least twice a week. We like to be in those settings. It's always been important to read.
So it sounds like your house is full of books like the house you grew up in.
So I'm trying to get as many books as they have. I still don't have as many books as they have, but I go and borrow my dad's books because a lot of the books that I want to read, he has them. I remember Think and Grow Rich.
Yes, by Napoleon Hill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like just getting those books. It's so important. I would just go. I can literally any book that I want to read that was published, I'll say between 10 to 40 years ago, I could probably find it in my parents' house. Wow. Because they have a lot of books. All the books I used to read from Toni Morrison, Richard Wright. He has the box collection of Native Son and Black Boy.
Devon, you really grew up with a lot of literature around you.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad to hear that you are instilling this in your children. You have the family with 6 kids. How do you even fit it in? Your reading?
So you know what? As much as I tried to fight it, I had to start using audiobooks because I spent a lot of time in the car. I literally fought it. I was like, no, I want to turn the pages.
Why? Oh.
Because I love to turn the pages and read the book. Like I literally love to do that. And so my first audiobook that I finished was actually Becoming.
Oh, by Michelle Obama.
And I bought the hard copy too. I bought the hard copy and gave it to my mom. And then I went ahead and just purchased the audiobook because I had the hard copy for months.
Yeah.
Months and so I said, let me go ahead and do this. So audiobooks have been great. So I'm okay with audiobooks now. I don't feel like I'm betraying hardback books by reading audio. And I literally felt like that. I was like, no, I need to sit. I need to turn the pages. And I was like, no, Debbie, you literally drive like 3 to 5 hours a day.
Do you?
So pre-pandemic, at least probably about 3 to 5 hours a day I was driving between drop-offs and pickups on the kids, in between meetings. And so I was in my car a lot. Yeah. And so it just made sense. So yeah, I definitely love audiobooks now.
Now, what about the youth that you work with, the moms that you mentor? How do you impart that and the importance of reading to them? Oh
my goodness. So it was a few years ago, we briefly had a book club, and it was by it was sponsored by Catherine Finney. So Catherine Finney is the creator and the former executive director. She's the founder and former executive director of Digital Undivided, and that is a tech and business startup for Black and Latina women that was formed in Atlanta. And so she came to speak in St. Louis, and I got a chance to stand up and ask her questions and speak. And she was just like, I really love what you're doing. And we connected offline, and she actually sent books for how to, what is the book? The title was so long. It is
How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Thank you. And she sent us 25 books, which I was able to give to moms that came to one of my conferences. Even my mom read the book. She said, I really like this book. And so that really made me happy that my mom, she was like, can I get one of those books? I said, you sure can. And my mom started to read the book, and she was like, I really like this. And so I think that it came right on time because it was right pre-pandemic when we got the books. And so people really need to know how to engage and win influence because they were going to be doing it online, right? So the book, it came like right on time. And then when it comes to youth, I've taken some of the students I work with to libraries. It's important we write, and then I teach them, like I've taught them like I've given them books on and poetry, and then help them to understand that they are poets themselves, if they're once they are putting those words from their heart and their minds to paper, and then teaching them actually how to write and how to write without using text language, but really getting them to understand the power of words in general, even the words they write was really important. And then knowing that once they are able to read, the more words they know, the more topics they can talk about. Like reading is so important on so many different levels.
So it sounds like you're talking about building their vocabulary.
Yes, definitely.
So Devon, what are you most proud of as far as your literacy journey is concerned?
I can actually say that I'm proud that I'm raising another generation of readers. Ooh. I'm very proud of that. For my children to say, when is the library going to open again? For so long, and for me to say, okay, well, we can pick up books, we just can't, go inside. For them to want and to long and to read, that makes me proud, and it makes me know that I've done, something right. The fact that they are wanting to do this, and this is what they want, this is what they're wanting to do, and it's not me forcing it upon them. I'm exposing them, but I'm not forcing it upon them.
Well, as we close, I want to ask you, can you imagine a world without reading? Why is reading so important? Literacy. And I define literacy as the act of reading and writing. Why do you think, and why do you feel that's important?
It's so heavy. Just really speaking of the fact that I actually used to work with a literacy program. I worked with one where I was actually teaching people my age who were reading. At the time, my age, I was mid-20s, and I was teaching people who were reading on the first and the second grade level. Yeah. And their motivations were that they now had children, and they wanted to be able to help their children with their home.
Yeah.
And so when I think about a world without reading or writing, it makes me sad, because it takes me back to a time that I'm glad I didn't have to experience. Yeah. But it takes me back to I think about slavery. I think about when our ancestors were killed or maimed for wanting to learn, because people knew that if they could keep the correct information, or keep the information out of our hands, and if we couldn't write and communicate, if we could not learn to do more, or so they thought, if we could not, then we would always be less than or under their control. And so that's what it takes me back to, because when it was a crime, it takes me back to feel like, when it was a crime. So if it did not exist, I don't even know. Like, I don't even want to imagine a world without books and learning and writing. I think we would truly be lost. Or it wouldn't be a way for us to learn about the past. It would be no way for us to pass on traditions except for oral, which has been a great deal of our communication. But if we could never get that oral history down on paper, it would really tremendously have changed the future. And what would that future look like if we couldn't warn them of the past or warn them about things? Because I think that's a lot of past communication, because they say you can't really move forward in the future if you don't know your past, because that's when you continue to repeat history.
Right.
If you don't know what happened, what you could do to change what happened in the past.
Thank you so much for your insights. I'm really proud of you of what you're doing and how your kids have caught it. Your kids have caught it, and your parents. I mean, what's the connection between when your children go to their grandparents' house and they see all those books, they see how that legacy was passed on to you, and now you're passing it on to them. Do your parents ever talk to your kids about the reading? And
well, they give them books. So books are a gift option, or flashcards. Actually, my dad just gave me some world geography flashcards for my daughter, who's about to go into 4th grade, because she likes learning about different places, different countries. I remember when I traveled to Paris, I brought them back so many things, but she would go and try to research herself, about places. And so she loves looking at the globe. My parents, I still have the globe. I kept it there because I didn't want my kids to break it.
I love that you have a globe.
Yeah, I have a globe. And so sometimes I would just spin it and then touch a place on there to learn about. That's something nice. And so the globe I have, it still has the Soviet Union. on it.
Okay.
This is the globe that my dad bought in the 80s, late 80s. So that globe still has a lot of places that, don't even exist
Change.
anymore.
Well, thank you so much for joining me on Literacy Journeys with Linda. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been listening to Miss Devon Moody-Graham, and she has a company, as she said, CEO Moms. But beyond that, she influences a lot of people just by her beautiful presence and her what she communicates about the importance of learning. She's a lifelong learner. So if you like these literacy journeys with Linda, please subscribe to my channel. Click that subscribe button so that you won't miss any of these wonderful interviews I do with these people. Thank you so much for joining me, Devon, and I will see you next time.